Good evening, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for October 1st. They're all now held at the High School Media Center until further notice, in case you didn't know that. Tonight for the agenda, we have a loud echo in this room.
Pull the microphone a little closer.
7 p.m., we have citizens input. 7:05, we have chairman's update. At 7:10, Robert Moda, request for town common bandstand dedication. 7:20 p.m., Mass Gaming Commissioner, Racino Committee in Plainridge. 7:50, Board of Selectmen Town Manager Search Committee. 8:10, Board of Selectmen Stadium Liquor License Discussion. 8:20, Board of Selectmen Special Town Meeting Warrant. And at 9 o'clock, after action items, executive session to conduct strategy session in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Deputy Chief John Chandler, and review of executive session minutes. Okay. Lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there anybody here for citizens input tonight? Please come forward to the table. Gentlemen, welcome. We all know each other, but for the record, please.
Good evening. Bill Dudley, 36 North Grove Street.
Good evening. I'm Tony Calcier from the Hockomock Area YMCA.
Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
I just have some questions and suggestions from the group, survivors of Bill Sheehan.
I think the school committee's sabotaging us tonight.
Somebody did. So just some thoughts to share with you, and I appreciate, by the way, I think we all appreciate how supportive the selectmen and town leadership have been on this issue regarding the protection of children. So question first, whether you can comment now or not, is there an available update on the formation of a working group that's been talked about to create a town child protection policy? Has the group been formed with the goal of creating a policy to protect kids and provide training to all persons who have responsibility for children or contact with children to prevent or recognize signs of child abuse?
We can't comment on citizen input, Bill, but if you like, we can put you on the agenda, a meeting down the road to answer any questions
Okay.
that you have.
Okay, so I'll just go through this. One suggestion we have is that a survivor of Sheehan who's willing to serve might be able to provide helpful insight to that group, and would also show that town leadership is open to working with us. Secondly, a thought, we have scattered groups all working toward a common goal, and perhaps a step could be taken to coordinate efforts. I know Chief O'Leary, I just learned, has been working on this. But HUGS, the YMCA, the school system, various church groups, and so on have all been working on this. We'd like to bring them together. Thirdly, a suggestion that we cast the widest possible net to train the community itself to stamp out child abuse in Foxborough. And a statistic is, I don't know the exact number, but our population now is about 18,000 people. 1 in 4 girls, statistically, and 1 in 5 boys have been molested. People under the age of 18 are 26.5% of the population in Foxborough. That would mean that right now, if we're in line with statistics, there are 600 girls in Foxborough who have been molested, and around 460 boys, right now as we speak. So that's why a wide net approach is important. School personnel in public and charter schools, volunteers in churches, town employees, preschools, nursery schools, leagues, recreation, coaches for all youth sports, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Lions Club, Rotary, J.C.'s, Masons. We would love to see parents of kids transferring into a school in Foxborough or registering their children to begin schooling in Foxborough at kindergarten orientation. Go through the training, because if we can get parents aware and not naive in protecting their own children, that's a huge step forward. Fourth, we don't want to see this effort die out as Bill Sheehan fades from the newspapers and the headlines and memory. We'd like to see some type of entity created to create accountability in the future, so we never let our guard down. Perhaps a child safety committee be formed, a 3 or 4 person board, maybe the town HR person, who I know you can't comment but is working on this, some volunteers who are passionate on the subject, just to follow up with various entities to make sure they are continuing training, they are keeping up with policies within their organization, the recreation or the churches or whoever, so that kids in Foxborough are the safest we can possibly make them be. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, you have something to add?
Yeah, just, I've been working with Bill Dudley on this issue for a while now. Had a training at his church this past March. And for 2 years now, the YMCA has brought an initiative to the town of Foxborough. We partner with a national not-for-profit organization called Doctors to Light, who's developed a child sexual abuse prevention training that's called Stewards of Children. I think a couple of members of the board have been through the training, and we have, in the last 18 months, we started prior to the unfortunate incident that Bill has referred to a couple of times, but during that time and since that time, we've worked with a lot of groups. I've worked very closely with Chief O'Leary, with Deb Spinelli, the superintendent of schools. In fact, just the last week of August, before school started, all 342 members of the Foxborough public school system, from custodians to faculty to support staff, administration, counselors, nurses, have all now been trained as stewards of children. And it's an awareness education. Doctors Delight believes that child sexual abuse can be prevented through community-based prevention. We've had an opportunity about a year ago to have 2 sessions where a lot of town employees in Foxborough have come to the training. I'm working with Chief O'Leary to bring all the youth sports groups together. So, and again, we're not the YMCA, we're not content experts, we're not experts on the subject. We see ourselves as a convener to try to help bring people together, which is, why I've been working with folks like Reverend Dudley and other folks in town, and just want to present ourselves to your board as a resource. I think going forward, if there were some training that was going to happen in town, there's already been a lot of folks in the town of Foxborough that's gone through the Stewards of Children training. It's just been updated. The original training was developed in 2004. Early this month, they kind of came out with the Stewards of Children 2.0. It's even better than the original training. It's been streamlined a little bit. It's now a 2-hour training instead of a 2.5-hour training. And if interested, I brought some information about the training that I could leave with each member of the Board of Selectmen, so you could learn a little bit more about what it is, what the curriculum is based on. And that's it. Just, again, to come here with my friend Bill and just to offer to be a resource and do whatever we could do to help make the kids of Foxborough as safe as possible.
We appreciate that. So I'll have Secretary notify you both of when Bob puts it on the agenda so we can discuss your ideas. And
Okay.
we'll move forward with that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. How are you?
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is anybody else here for citizens' input? Seeing none, Lorraine, did you have something to say about Shannon's update?
Oh, the town hall.
Under Chairman's update, Lorraine has something she wants to say, being the vice chair, so I'm gonna pass the mic to her.
Okay, just wanted to announce that Bill Caspera, our, from the Town Inspections Department, and also Bill Yukna, Chair of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee, were interviewed for cable access television related to the town hall renovation project. So we just wanted to let everybody out in the public know that that would be hopefully broadcasting soon, and we'll hopefully give you some information that will help as the town meeting is coming up November 4th. For people, we'll be asking people to vote on funding for designs for bid specs, actually, for a proposed town hall. So there'll be a lot of questions answered, we hope, through that interview process, and hope you'll all watch it on Foxborough Cable Access.
Thank you, Lorraine. Okay, that's 7:10, and we're right on the money. Robert Moda, are you here?
Yep, Marta.
Marta, sorry. Anybody want to join you tonight?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Jack.
I just saw somebody sitting with you. I didn't know if she wanted to come up and join you.
This is Marta.
Okay, have a seat. We all got your request packet this week, and I also received an email from Jack Othelet today, giving it his blessings.
He called me today and told me that he was sending that to you, so.
So, if you'd like to propose your,
Okay, yeah. My name is Bob Mott. I'm with the former member of the Foxborough J.C.'s. I live at 4 Shepherd Street in Foxborough. And I'm here representing a bunch of former J.C.'s and J.C. wives who would like to dedicate the common bandstand to the music-loving family of Hole and Mary Bowditch. The Bowditches, Harry Hole and Mary Bowditch, long-time residents, former residents of Foxborough. They're very much involved in music. They go way back to the 1940s, where they were singing for the Ponset Choral Society, and they sang, excuse me, for the Foxborough Company Glee Club. And in 1972, the Foxborough J.C.'s built the bandstand. Harry Bowditch, the son of one of the sons of Hole and Mary Bowditch, designed that bandstand as a member of the J.C.'s in 1972, and he also built it that year. Under his direction, a bunch of us J.C.'s built it, including myself. And then at that time, Mary and Hole started doing the Christmas caroling on the Common for something like 25 years, from 1972 to the mid-1990s. Their son, Harry, who I just mentioned, recently passed away, and a bunch of us were talking about trying to do something to memorialize that, because he was the one who built it, and the family was so dedicated to music. We thought, rather than just to do it for Harry, that we would do it for the whole family, if possible. Right now, there's a plaque on the door of the bandstand saying that it was the J.C.'s gave it to the town in 1972. That's all it says. I had an attachment to show what I would like it to look like, or that we would like it to look like, mentioning that it's the Bowditch Bandstand, dedicated to the music-loving family of Hole and Mary Bowditch. And then a mention of their son, Harry, who designed it, built it in 72, and at that time, it was the J.C.'s gave it to the town of Foxborough. Prior to coming here, I did talk to Harry's wife, Rachel, who obviously was happy about it. I talked to Harry's brother, Peter, who lives in town. I got in touch with the Foxborough J.C.'s, my wife and I, Mary, who's behind me, who's a former president of the J.C. Wives. We met with the J.C.'s at one of their meetings, and they gave us their support and mentioned they would come to the meeting today. I believe Monica Fisler is here. She's former president of the J.C.'s. I also met with Jack Arthalat at his home office, and he was very much behind it. He said it was a fabulous idea and a well-deserved idea for a well-respected family. So that's what I'm here for, to ask if the town would be willing to have that dedicated to the Bowditch family. We would get a plaque, a very nice professionally made bronze plated plaque, and attach it to the door. Probably at a J.C. musical event, hopefully in May or June of 2014.
Okay,
That's about it.
thank you. Any comments from the board, starting with you, John?
No, actually, I read this through. I actually do know Peter Bowditch, and he had mentioned this to me, and it's. I think it's a, given that the bandstand is not dedicated to anyone in particular, I think this is fitting, and it's been a wonderful family. So I've got no problem. Matter of fact, I would like to see this happen.
Lorraine?
I think it's a great way to recognize the contribution that the family made, so appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gina?
Thank you. I think it's a great idea. The J.C.'s have been very supportive of the town actually doing the bandstand for the town, and if they feel that it would be nice to dedicate it to the Bowditch family, I have no problem with that. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah, I called Jack Arthalet to talk to him about it today, and he was planning on coming, but he's
Right.
dealing with a personal issue. And he said two things. One, Mr. Motta did a fantastic job putting the description together in the packet that you submitted, so he wanted to thank you for that. And the second thing he said is, to summarize it, very few families that have done so much for the town of Foxborough and asked for very little. And hands down, he said this is a fantastic idea, so zero reservations. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. I imagine they must be the forefathers and mother of the Foxborough music program being so successful in this town. It's just an outstanding program. I love going to it every year, as many as I can. And watch my neighbors' kids develop their skills and move on to college through it. It's just a fantastic program, so I applaud it myself, too. So I'll entertain a motion from the board.
I'll read a motion.
Great.
Okay, I move that we accept Robert Motta's proposal, along with others, that we allow them to dedicate the bandstand on the Common, naming it the Bowditch Bandstand, and I'll read this, dedicated to the music-loving family of Howell and Mary Bowditch. The son Harry Bowditch, who was a member of the Foxborough J.C.'s, designed this bandstand. Harry, with the assistance of other Foxborough J.C.'s, built the bandstand in 1972. At that time, this bandstand was given to the community by the Foxborough J.C.'s, and thank you very much for bringing this forward.
Second.
Thank you.
No more discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Nice job.
Okay, we get a couple of minutes to 7:20. I'm not sure of, is anybody here from the Mass Gaming Commission?
I think you might be able to hold.
Could you check, Mike?
Yeah, no problem.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight. Just for the record, if you could, for the, your names for the record for them.
My name is John Ziemba. I'm the Ombudsman for the Gaming Commission.
My name is Gordon Carr. I'm a consultant with the Ombudsman's Office of the Gaming Commission.
Okay, great, thanks for coming. This request is made by Selectman DeVellis, so I'm gonna let him take control of this here and move this meeting forward. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Mark. I had reached out to the Mass Gaming Commission, to Mr. Ziemba, and thank you for coming tonight. As the Ombudsman for the Mass Gaming Commission, you may recall Mr. Ziemba was back here a while ago when Plainville was entertaining the previous applicant for a slot parlor over in Plainville. The meeting was well attended, and he gave us some insight into the regulations and the process. Time went by, and now there's a new applicant, and it's a little bit of an expedited schedule. So we put this on the agenda for about a half an hour, and I thought it would be good for the board to ask specific questions to the Mass Gaming Commission. Following that, I know we have some correspondence in our packet from residents of Plainville reaching out to us. We've got our Racino Committee chairman, the committee that we appointed to kind of study the impact if we're so fit to be an impacted community, a budding community. So we'll spend some time there. But if Mrs. Ziamba could answer our questions first and kind of give us some insight, if there's any updates on the regulations and the steps between now and their final decision, I think it would help the town. There was just to kind of preface it a little bit, Town of Plainville put on their town warrant. They had a special town meeting, and they approved a second applicant for the Plain Ridge racetrack and slot machine development. The public was asked for comment before that transfer happened, and I submitted on behalf of the board back to the Gaming Commission. Physically, it just was not possible for us to comment back to the commission with any of our comments or concerns because of the time. We're a public board. We have to have 48 hours notice, put it on the docket, and then collectively send something back. So our response to the Gaming Commission at that time was physically, we would like to comment, but because of the expedited schedule on the transfer, it's impossible for them to hear our comments. So I'd invite the board, probably it makes more sense if, as an ombudsman, it's kind of a term that probably many people don't understand. If you could just introduce yourself, what your role is, and then maybe we could ask questions and then have more public discussion.
Okay, great.
So as an ombudsman, I have a multiple role with different constituencies. I'm a primary point of contact for communities as they have questions regarding the commission's processes and regulations. I'm also a point of contact with the applicants as they as they have to navigate their way through state agencies and as they have questions of the commission as well, and any of our regulations and standards. So, Mr. DeVellis, I have a PowerPoint. I won't go into depth on the PowerPoint, but it's something that that you could review after this date. And what I thought I would do is I would hit some of the salient points now that we are nearing the application deadline of things that the town would it would be wise for the town to think about over the next couple days and over the next few weeks.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Oh, I can do that, John.
Great.
Thank you. If there's any extras, maybe some from the audience might want to
Great,
review.
thank you.
Great. And much of the information that is contained in here and some of the information that is in here is also included in a PowerPoint that is located on our website, on our About Host and Surrounding Communities page. On the right-hand corner of that page, there's a PowerPoint presentation that gets into a little bit of the detail regarding our licensing process. And that is sort of meant as a good summary document because there is just a tremendous amount of material for people to absorb and communities to absorb. So I won't go through all of this, but what I will point out are some of the more important things as we go forward in the next few days. You'll see on the first page, this is just the current gaming applicants that we now have for our licenses, and of note for this community is the slots applicants. We now have 3 slots applicants across the Commonwealth. On the second page of the presentation, these are some of the criteria and goals of the legislation when it was created. I went into a little bit of depth on this the last time I appeared, so I'll skip ahead. The application process, as I discussed at the last time I was making my presentation, that it's a twofold process. The first full process is the suitability phase, and we make a determination whether or not each one of these applicants is suitable. Obviously, in the case down here, there was one of the applicants that was deemed unsuitable by the commission, and it was not allowed to move forward. Of the original applicants, there was another applicant that was going through the process for suitability, and that is an applicant that found its way to the town of Foxborough. So once excuse me, Town to Plainville, sorry, thank you, Gordon. So once an applicant is deemed suitable, and assuming that it has passed its host community referendum, it can apply to the second phase of our licensing process. And that is all of the details of the facility. That second phase of the licensing process, that application deadline is on October 4th. After our October 4th deadline, there is a statutory public hearing, which includes representatives from the host community and representatives from surrounding communities at that statutory public hearing, where the commission will ask a number of questions of both applicants and surrounding communities and host communities as it evaluates each of the responses that are before it. Prior to that statutory public hearing, the commission plans to have another input hearing in a surrounding community for each one of the applicants and each one of the Category 1 applicants. And what that hearing will be designed to do is to solicit the input from those communities on impacts and other concerns of those communities and their members. At the end of the hearing process, at the end of the review process, the commission makes its determination on which license to award.
Mr. Zamek, can I just interrupt? So October 4th is the application. Is there a date set for that hearing?
Those hearing dates have not been established yet. The commission is having a meeting on Thursday, where it is likely that we will talk about the process over the next few weeks and months, and so it might become a little bit more well-known what the anticipated dates will be.
Okay, thank you.
Immediately after the October 4th application deadline, the next phase is on October 7th. Each one of the applicants will make a 90-minute presentation to the commission about the highlights of their application, what they want the commission to take a look at on a going-forward basis. And that is not meant as the full statutory hearing where the commission asks very in-depth questions, but merely those would be questions that relate primarily to the presentation that the applicant just made. But they will highlight significant aspects of their application. It is anticipated, the timetable, it is anticipated that our license awards could be completed as early as December, but depending on how surrounding community discussions go, they could be late January or possibly even February. You'll see that in that schedule on page 4. Our evaluation criteria, since we met months ago, the commission has settled on its evaluation criteria. They're in 5 different categories. Mitigation being one of the primary 5, and mitigation is not only mitigation of lottery and mitigation of problem gaming, traffic problems, but problems within the host and surrounding communities. I think that the commission's focus on mitigation as one of its primary criteria, it reflects the nature of the Gaming Act and how much attention the legislature put into the issues of impacts of host and surrounding communities. Building and site design, economic development, finance, and there's a general overview section that is one of the principal criteria. That is what makes it a unique destination. How does it solve a problem in a unique way? How do we reinforce the positive impacts on the Commonwealth? There are a tremendous amount of detail that will be in these applications. There are a number of required studies. I point that to your attention in section 6. Our application is available online. It's a 236-page application, and I've highlighted here many of the sections that relate to host and surrounding communities, such as housing impacts, traffic control measures, impacts and costs, infrastructure costs, plans for management of stormwater, analysis of water and sewer facilities, traffic mitigation, adequacy of traffic infrastructure, and the like. So once these applications are available, there will be a tremendous amount of information that is available to the general public and to both the host community and surrounding communities. This slide on page 8 that references the public hearings that I just mentioned. On page 9, so this is where we start getting into what is the latest and what is happening now before the commission. On page 9, this goes into some detail of how one can be considered to be a surrounding community. There are 3 primary ways on how a community can be a surrounding community, and this is a little bit of a a further review of testimony that I've given before, but an applicant can determine a surrounding community in its application. It can label that community as a surrounding community in its application, even in the absence of an agreement. It can include the agreement, any agreements that it reaches with surrounding communities, and if it reaches an agreement with the surrounding community, then that community is a surrounding community for our purposes and purposes of the statute. And then the final way that a community can become a surrounding community is by making a petition to the commission within 10 days of the application date. Now, why I highlight in yellow on this page this 10 days is because on the commission's agenda for Thursday is a discussion item about that date and whether or not it should be extended. Prior to this upcoming Thursday meeting 2 weeks ago, the commission discussed that to date, at that date, there were no surrounding community agreements at any of the Category 2 facilities or indeed at any one of the Category 1 facilities, and how that was a big concern to the commission for the purposes of our process, for the purposes of surrounding communities. So at that meeting, the commission asked me and our general counsel to come back with some further ideas about what we can do regarding the process. The October 4th deadline, the application date, stayed as a deadline, but what the commission said was that they asked the general counsel and myself to come back with further ideas about surrounding communities. And the surrounding community petition date is one of those items that will be discussed at Thursday's commission meeting, and whether or not communities can reach that in a reasonable fashion.
Mr. Ziamba, may I ask you a question about that? Since Penn National has just come into the picture, and we've been dealing with them over the last couple of weeks, I mean, there's just no way with, the open meeting requirements, and the Board of Selectmen can't sit with them in more than, in less than a majority of the members and have a full discussion. So we've not been able to come up with an agreement. We've batted around some ideas. They don't plan to designate any of the surrounding communities as surrounding communities. That's the information that I've gotten from the applicant themselves. And so I suspect we're all going to have to file a petition. So should we not count on the fact that it's going to be extended within the next few days, file a petition to the commission? And is that just a letter requesting, or, is there a formal petition?
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
So surrounding community petitions are filed after the application is received, so they would be filed after October 4th with
Okay.
the commission. And regarding the form, if you take a look at 205 CMR 125.01.2, that describes what should be included in a petition.
Okay.
And basically, our definition goes into some depth about the type of impacts that a community would experience or could experience. And communities can make a case regarding the impacts and their geographic proximity to know both the host community and the specific gaming facility. And that's what would be in that petition.
Okay.
But part of the discussion on Thursday will be, given the context that a number of different communities and applicants are in the midst of discussions, should the commission discuss ways to make it easier for that conversation to go on further beyond that 10 days? And whether or not that date is extended will be part of that conversation. So it could be, depending on what the commission decides on Thursday, we'll make it well known to the communities about what happens with that date. But in the realization that some of these conversations may continue, that's going to be part of the discussion. I will note that if an applicant were to designate a community as a surrounding community, there would be no need for the agreement to be reached by October 4th. So under our regulations, applicants can, in their application, state, we designate this community as a surrounding community for whatever reason we have not been able to reach an agreement with that community, we're going to continue on in our conversations with them. And so after that designation, then there still is a statutory 30 days worth of negotiations. But even under that situation, what our regulations say in that same section that I was referencing was an applicant designates a community as a surrounding community in its application. It sends a letter to the community saying you have been designated as a surrounding community. Then that community merely has to provide an assent to that designation to the commission. And so the community has 10 days to provide an assent to that designation. So October 4th, 10 days, the community could submit its assent, and then sometime after that, then the commission could formally designate a community as a surrounding community, then beginning the statutory 30-day negotiation of the time period. So there is some flexibility, and even with surrounding community determinations, community has that 10 days under current regulations. Applicant has 10 days to respond to that request for designation, and then the commission shall decide after that period of 20 days. And it is not determined how many days the commission has to make that determination. So with as I discussed at the meeting a couple of weeks ago, the commission said, is there a way that we can find out how communities are doing with their conversations with applicants, so it can be known whether or not an agreement is likely reachable, whether or not a particular community may be a surrounding community or not a surrounding community, and what is the status of that. So there are a number of different days after that, and there's a lot of flexibility that's built into our regs, and we're discussing other ways that we can have further flexibility.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry for that long-winded answer.
That's all right.
Bob, at this point, then we have no choice but to file that petition, correct?
At this stage, we haven't received a letter, and my conversation with Mr. Stoliar is that they are not going to designate us as a surrounding community. I understand that that's going to be the case with any of the local communities. So we would have to follow that third procedure.
Well, unless the gaming commission named us as a.
Well, they don't do that. We have to send
Well,
an
that was a
petition.
possibility, wasn't it?
So we name communities, surrounding communities, upon petition.
We have to
Only
petition.
upon petition.
Only upon petition. So after petition by the communities. So, as I was talking about, so the petition, which is now due 10 days after the application, that petition would then trigger the response by the applicant, or then if the applicant has the ability to assent also to a surrounding community petition.
Which is not going to happen in this case.
I don't know. I don't know conversations, and nor am I here to sort of predict what they will or will not do. But what I can say is that if a community submits its surrounding community petition, an applicant can also assent to that petition without involving a fight before the commission. If the applicant assents to that petition, then they are designated as a surrounding community once it's formally recognized by the commission.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, one other question I think which might be of interest to the region, not just Foxborough, not just Plainville, but some people were struck by the speed at which the original applicant was deemed to be not suitable, and then the speed at which Penn National came onto the scene. I was just wondering if you could go through that process and how you stuck to your established rules in allowing that to happen.
So, as you know, the original Plainville applicant was deemed unsuitable by the commission. The reviews took place from the time of January 15th until the time that we made our eventual decision. Our reviews of all applicants are done by the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau. They have teams of state police, ex-FBI, numerous consultants. And so that review took many months to complete. That review is then forwarded to the commission for its review. The commission had very public open meetings. They're available on our website. Anybody who wants to go take a look at what transpired during that, it's available on the web. There's a 100-plus page report, the Investigations and Enforcement Bureau report, that was part of the consideration by the commission. That is available on our website. And at the end of that process, the commission determined that that applicant would not be deemed suitable. Shortly before the referendum in the town of Plainville, we received a request to consider an option agreement and a host community agreement that was going to be assumed by Penn National. We received that request within a couple of days before the election, and the commission, because an election was forthcoming, the commission determined that it would have a number of meetings in anticipation of that election. And the commission, after a number of days of deliberations, determined that it would allow for the assumption of that host community agreement.
I guess my question is, do your rules, the established rules while this whole process
Yep.
began, allow for the assumption of an applicant to take over for another applicant?
Yes,
It does?
yes.
Okay.
Maybe for some clarification, my understanding is that Penn National had been looked at as a possible, up in, was it Leominster? Or Tewksbury, a North Shore location.
Yep.
The location fell apart, but they had already been looked at as a suitable investor in that business?
So Penn National, it was one of the original applicants on the January 15th deadline, and so our Investigations and Enforcement Bureau had been reviewing their backgrounds along with all the rest of the applicants. They were originally a Springfield applicant, and then they found their way to Plainville.
Okay.
Elaine, any questions at this point?
I just want to go to, so the latest likely date for the February statutory public hearing, how are towns represented at those types of hearings?
The towns can determine who represents them. Surrounding communities can determine who represents them at those hearings. But we will have general input hearings as well. So even outside of a general designation as a surrounding community, in those general input hearings, we will take questions from citizens and others who are interested.
So there would be a separate hearing for citizen input aside
Yes.
from the statutory?
Aside from the statutory. And the statutory hearing is at the end of the process. When you reference February, that is more the licensing decision.
Okay.
Our previous date, our current date has been the middle of December, but based on some of the realities of surrounding community agreements and the status of them, it is not likely that that December date will be reached. But the statutory hearing will be much later in the process, more towards the December dates, October, November, December dates, rather than within a short period after October.
So you'd expect then citizen input types of hearings would be earlier?
Would be
in the
earlier.
process.
Yep.
All right. And we would be notified of
Yes,
those dates?
yes.
Is that it, Lorraine? No? Are you more?
Nope, that's it.
Ginny, you have anything at this point?
You can speak to that if you want.
We received a letter, it was addressed to Governor Patrick, and it was CC'd to a number of communities, plus the Gaming Commission. Are you aware of the letter from some citizens of Plainville?
We do receive a lot of letters, so
Okay.
I don't know which letter you're speaking about.
Yeah, it's a very well-written letter, and it brings up some very important points in regard to the assumption of the host community agreement by Penn National. The host community agreement had been negotiated between Our Way, which was Plainridge, and the town of Plainville. Once they were deemed not appropriate, not
Suitable.
suitable, thank you, suitable, they were no longer able to apply. But in the Gaming Act, in quoting the Gaming Act, it says that the applicant must sign the host community agreement 60 days prior to the holding of a voter referendum. Well, that would have been fine if Our Way, it had been the host community agreement negotiated with our way. But the referendum was held after Penn National had assumed the host community agreement. And to me, that looks like you're not following your own rules. You're changing horses midstream. And I believe the citizens of Plainville had a very real concern about that. Because when you're dealing with an entity like Plainridge, which had been in that community for ages, everybody knew these people. And when they did their community agreement, they were dealing with those people from Plainridge, the people that they knew. Like all of a sudden now, you've got a new person coming in, assuming this agreement. Penn National, these people don't know Penn National from Adam. So how can you say that the host community agreement is the same that would have been negotiated if they had known that Penn National was the one that was actually applying for Plainridge?
So that particular matter that you were mentioning was the subject of 2 days' worth of hearings before the commission. There is an opportunity for comment by citizens. I read into the record numerous comments that we received from Plainville residents, Foxborough residents, and others about that very matter. And the commission made the decision that the assumption of the host community agreement was within the context of the Gaming Act. So if you'd like, we can point you to the sections of the hours of testimony that are available on our
Well,
website. Anybody can take a look at that.
It just seemed.
Yeah, just to get back to that point, that's the issue that I brought up earlier. They had asked for our input, and it was physically impossible for us as the board representing the town of Foxborough to give you any input because it was within a few days' notice. For us to set up a meeting, you need 48 hours. You got to hold it. Then so at least a week is probably the best we could do under emergency situations. So when you're saying you had hearings and you got input, we weren't able to do it. The best we could do was say, we respect the 60 to 90 days that's in the statutory requirements. We expected that to happen, and we can't comment on it. And that's what we have on the record to Mass Gaming Commission.
And the reason you have rules and regulations is that everybody's on the same playing field. Everybody knows what's going to happen. And you've just, in my estimation, you've just changed the rules. And if you do it this time, how does anybody have faith that the Gambling Commission is not going to change the rules on something else down the road?
Well,
That's a big concern, because when the legislation was passed, people were really, really concerned that it would be transparent, that people knew what they were going to get. And if they didn't want a casino or a racino in their area, they could say no. If they did want it, they could say yes. But you've changed the rules here for Plainville.
Yeah. With due respect to Mr. DeVal's comments regarding the time period, I think I mentioned some of the circumstances regarding the constraints that we were under when we were reviewing that application and that request for the transfer of the host community agreement, as in there was an election that was going to be forthcoming in the town of Plainville. But in regard to transparency, I would recommend, if you have further questions about this, to take a look at the length of the deliberations, the extent of the deliberations that occurred on those 2 days, and the points that were raised by citizens were widely deliberated by the commission before they made that determination that what occurred was within the context of the Gaming Act and our rules.
Was the hearing done in Boston or in Plainville?
It was done in Boston, but we broadcast every one of our hearings via the web. So if anybody wants to watch any of our proceedings, they can just go online. Thursday's hearing, if you want to take a look at it, it will be broadcast on the web as well. Just go to massgaming.com. So if anybody wants to take a look at that, they should.
But I'm assuming it was done during the daytime when people work?
It was done during the daytime.
Did you have many people from Plainville attending?
We had,
Citizens?
I think, I can't remember how many different comments that we had, but we read them into the record of how many different comments we received on both sides of the issue.
If I could, Ginny, the whole thing becomes a game changer in a way where we're trying to elaborate as best as we can. If you're prepping to play one team and all of a sudden you're playing another team, You can't expect citizens, private citizens, to stop what they're doing, trying to raise their kids, get them to school, get them to football, get them everywhere on the agendas of a family routine, which everybody has, and even other people that work or don't work. You don't just all of a sudden say, okay, you got 2 days to get here, and that's the way it's going to be. That's what's concerning everybody. And you got comments in this letter, and we can give you a copy of that from a lot
I
of
mean, it
people.
was sent to our office, I'm sure we haven't.
You know, I don't see how that can justifiably have taken place. And I understand that you're saying that there was deliberation, but I don't think a lot of people were able to be there to deliberate or activate. A lot of committees that disbanded. Our own committee that's here tonight had been disbanded. They had no time to react. As a government body, we could not act legally in any fashion or any way. And it just, the time restraints you put on everybody, it's just a little ridiculous. So you're saying now that you're thinking the commission is going to extend this whole hearing process so that this can be re-deliberated with more concern, or?
No, so what I'm specifically saying, just so I'm clear, is that the commission on Thursday will discuss potentially extending the surrounding community petition deadline to give applicants and communities to enter into further discussions regarding impacts or a lack of impacts. And that discussion will take place on Thursday at the commission. That will be available on our website, massgaming.com. Anybody who wants to watch that proceeding, I'd recommend that they do so. That'll provide a lot of information regarding what will occur over the next few weeks.
During your deliberations, did anyone mention that what you're about to do would have this effect on the region, and that a fair number of people in the region would view this as not terribly transparent and would also lose confidence quickly in your organization?
Now,
Is that ever discussed?
You can take a look. You can take a look at the record.
You guys, are we doing the right thing?
I read into the record numerous comments that were from Foxborough citizens and other citizens about the process, about similar concerns.
But did the commission itself worry
Yes.
about this?
Yes.
They did?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have another question. What's the definition, your definition of a surrounding community? Is it strictly a
So-
community that borders the host community?
No. So, I believe there's a slide in here
It's page 11.
that goes into summary of this, the definition regulation. But I commit you to, just so we can be entirely accurate, I would take a look at 205 CMR 125.01, section 2B, and that is the specific definition of the type of impacts, but just in summary form, on page 11 of the PowerPoint. Proximity to host community and proximity to potential gaming factors are factors in the determination. A shared border is a part of the determination. Just because one does not have a shared border, that does not mean that it cannot be designated as a surrounding community. But a shared border is one of the factors. Impacts on transportation infrastructure, including but not limited to significant increased volume of trips on local streets, changes the level of service at intersections, and impacts on state and federal roadways. Construction period impacts such as noise, environmental impacts, and construction vehicle impacts. Operation period impacts such as public safety impacts, regional water and sewer impacts, impacts on retail, entertainment, and service establishments, and increased social service needs. So all of these factors, and the regulation does not limit itself to these specific factors that could be evaluated by the commission. If there are other impacts, these are rather broad categories of impacts. If there are other impacts that should be considered by the commission in making that determination, it will do so. But specifically regarding the shared border question of is one a surrounding community because it has a shared border with another community, the legislature, there were numerous amendments that were before the legislature when it was considering the expanded Gaming Act, and one of those was shared border would mean that a community is a surrounding community. The legislature rejected that. Similarly, there were amendments saying if you're within a mile or within 3 miles or 5 miles, I think those are the correct miles, that if you're within that mileage base of a gaming facility or host community. One would be labeled as a surrounding community. The legislature did reject that. Instead, what it determined was that the commission could decide after the application is submitted to the commission based on impacts and based on the factors that I just referenced.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
John, is it safe to say that the commission would like you just to come here and basically direct us to where we could find information, not answer any questions directly? Is that your
Mr. Sullivan, with all due respect, I think I've been very forthright.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but basically, they'd rather you didn't answer, like, if I asked you the question, do you think that Foxborough would be considered an impact community? Would you elaborate on that? Would you direct me?
Yeah, why don't I answer that question directly to you?
Okay.
I cannot answer that question, nor any of the commissioners can answer that question. By statute, the commission can only determine which communities are surrounding communities after petitions have been, after applications have been filed before them, based on evaluation of the impacts, based on the geographic proximity, based on proximity to the host facility. So even if you were to ask the chairman himself or any one of the commissioners whether or not a community is a surrounding community before the deadline, we could not do so because it is not within their statutory authority. It is not within their statutory power to do so. What's anticipated is that each of the applicants will hopefully make those determinations of which communities are impacted and that rise under the factors of having the impacts that they would be a surrounding community for the purposes of our regulation. And if indeed a community does not agree with that assessment, that's why there's the process to appeal to the commission, and that's why we have very significantly fleshed out the rights of surrounding communities to petition the commission and provide more specificity regarding the type of things that the commission would utilize in making a determination of which is a surrounding community.
So basically, the Board of Selectmen or any citizen from any impacted or surrounding community of any region would have to hire counsel to pretty much represent them in front of the game commission?
There's no requirement that council is.
Well, I mean, anybody that goes into a game of that sort would bring counsel, I would think. I don't think anybody want to go in there trying to play lawyer. I know I wouldn't. So,
Mark, if I could, I think that Mr. Zamba has been very good in providing this information to us. There's a process in place, and he's providing us the information here on the petition process, which is what I think we're going to have to follow. So I don't think it accomplishes any more to, make any attack on Mr. Zamba.
I'm not, Bob. I'm not trying to badge him. All I'm going to say is, are there any funds? My point, getting to my point, is there any funds available to assist the town with the monetary situation that's going to be faced?
Yeah. So
as far as council goes,
in regard to assistance for town, both technical assistance and the assistance in reaching an agreement, there are a couple of ways identified. There's our community disbursements program, and I can't remember if this was the context of some of the conversations that you and I have had in the past of some of these funds, but so there's community disbursements program whereby communities can agree with an applicant to have funds provided to the town for services to evaluate impacts or for council to assist in a surrounding community agreement.
and
Our regulations also specify an ability of towns to petition the commission for what is called an involuntary disbursement. So if an applicant does not wish to provide the assistance, the technical assistance, or the funds for council, towns can also apply to the commission to basically require the applicant to provide that assistance. That involuntary disbursements regulation, I can give you a copy of that citation if you'd like. It's 205 CMR 11403 2B, and that spells out how communities can go about doing that.
okay, that's what I was trying to lead to.
Okay,
Bob.
yeah.
So, and I think that answers it very well. James, you have anything to add?
Yeah, just two quick things. The first one, and Mark was alluding to the funds for council. When this first came up, we appointed a review committee, a Racino review committee, and they're comprised of volunteers, just as this board is, to do their best in pulling in reports. Some of the ones that Plainville did are the ones, there's reports all over the place, but to look at the impacts, whether it be traffic or social impacts or gambling, all that stuff, with the understanding that these are well-intentioned volunteers, but they're not professionals. And we're doing the best we can. And as Mark had said, it kind of stopped and almost disbanded, and now we pulled them back. Could you explain to us the process or your relationship with Southeastern Regional Economic Development District in the metropolitan area planning to allow assistance financially to a town, not so much for the council, the legal counsel, but the planning tools that these guys need to do their job? And I know some of the other applicants in the abutting communities that specifically asked for it. We're in the process of looking that up to help this committee. But what resources are available to us as an abutting community, even if we're not designated? And it's a pretty bold statement that there's no communities that they're saying is an impacted abutting community. But so if we're designated on the applicant as being such, as not being an impacted, where do we get the resources to get the professional people to look at the studies and help our committee to come back to us?
Okay. On the second part of that question, where can you get the help? You are free to determine which consultants you utilize for that purpose. And the first part of that question regarding SERPIT and MAPC and what that program is, we developed a program which would allow communities to utilize the services of regional planning agencies to do technical assistance funding. And that program was voluntary on behalf of both applicants and voluntary on behalf of communities. And voluntariness is at the center of our review, as in if the commission were directing applicants on how they had to provide technical assistance, there would be certain questions about how fairly we are directing them to provide that assistance. That said, even if an applicant chooses not to utilize a regional planning agency for regional technical assistance, which is the program that we developed, a regional planning agency for the purposes of our regulations is no different from another consultant. So,
Okay, so if we want to go through the RPA route or a private consultant, who pays for that?
So if you could do an involuntary disbursements petition, one could include a regional planning agency as the agency that would be doing the reviews.
And you're calling that involuntary?
Involuntary disbursements petition.
And what do you mean by involuntary? They're not, the applicant is not volunteering to do it?
Not volunteering to providing disbursements.
So we write a letter to the Mass Gaming Commission?
No, so if you take a look at that regulation, that involuntary disbursements regulation, the way that you first have to ask the applicant whether or not they will provide you technical assistance. If and when they refuse to provide you technical assistance, you can then, I'm giving summary form.
Sure.
If they refuse to provide technical assistance funding, you can petition the commission and note that you have a need for technical assistance funding, and that the applicant has refused to provide that technical assistance funding. So then the involuntary disbursements, what that means is that it's involuntary on behalf of the applicant. If the commission determines, based on the regulation, that the factors exist, then we can ask the applicant and require the applicant to pay for that technical assistance funding.
Okay, so in the real life, when we have a contract and we have consultants, they're not going to work unless there's a signature on the authorization.
Yes.
So we have to go through this process even to get to the starting point so we can hire consultants to look at this process.
That's correct.
Okay, so this could be weeks, days, months?
It depends how quickly your application is filed, how quickly you make arrangements with whoever your consultants may be.
Jim, it could be too late.
Well, and Mr. Ziambi, I appreciate you coming, and you're kind of sitting in the hot seat because you understand the predicament that we're in. I look at it as the first step of the process, okay? When we were asked for comments and we said we couldn't give them because of the public process, I understand Plainville's desire to have it, and this isn't the table to argue the merits, whether it's good or bad for the community. But the one thing that I hang my hat on, and in my profession, I pick up rules and regulations and I follow them to a T. That's my job. What Plainville did in their past applicant, because of their actions, was deemed unqualified. That was a self-imposed hardship on the town to set that date, to have that meeting, and to have that vote by the town. So they got their vote. Because of that self-imposed hardship, the rules changed, in my opinion, and this is what I want to be clear on, is it took our voice away. We didn't get the 60 to 90 days to comment back. We were asked, but we said physically we can't do it. There's something called the open meeting law. So our voice was completely silent in these proceedings leading up to it. So now we're sitting in a situation saying, okay, we're going to bring back at the last minute a group of volunteers to try to tackle this. There's no money available. To get the money, it's got to go through a process. October 4th is the application to start it all off. What do you do for a small town like this where it seems, in our opinion, that the rules are already changed and we're dealing with it?
So what I can say is that there are measures that you can take within the regulations. What I did say is that the commission, based on that meeting a couple of weeks ago, is going to ascertain what it's going to take, as I mentioned earlier, for communities and for applicants to reach surrounding community agreements, if indeed they're going to be surrounding community agreements, and if they're not, how you make the determination that they're not. So there are levers that I've just described and tools that I've just described that could be utilized to accomplish that mission.
Okay.
But as we heard tonight, we understand that there might be ongoing discussions with the town about what to do regarding a surrounding community agreement, and potentially that could be factored into that process as well. And why I mention that is because obviously what we included in here are measures that can be taken if indeed there is no agreement on how to move forward with the applicant. If measures could be taken in concert with the applicant, you don't have to resort to the protections that are included in our regulations.
Thank you.
I just had a question. So are you saying that there are actually, if Penn National says that the town of Foxborough is not, as far as they're concerned, is not a surrounding community? Okay. So then it's up to the town of Foxborough to apply to be a surrounding community to the Gambling Commission. But also, separately, do we have to apply for the involuntary disbursements? So is that
That's right.
another?
That's
So
right.
that's, okay. Is there anything else that we have to do that we don't, that has not come to our attention?
There are a number of requirements in our regulations. I think that we've been pretty forthcoming with a lot of information on our website. We routinely send out information to communities. Even within the last week, we notified communities if they wanted to receive a copy of relevant information from the applicant on the day of their application. All they had to do is send an email to us and say, you can receive that. What we're going to try to do is we're going to try to make information available as quickly as possible after the application deadline, so you have the ability to review their applications. But part of the discussion on Thursday of extending that surrounding community petition deadline would be to make it a little bit easier for communities to take a look at what was included, all the detail that I just provided about that 2,236-page application. So that's part of what we're talking about.
Okay, so that information is going to, would be going to the town manager? That
Yep.
the notices?
If we ask for it and we get on the website and click email,
Yeah.
No, they're
But-
being sent directly.
but they are being sent
Yeah,
already.
emails and on our website. So it's a couple different ways.
So who are you sending it to?
I don't have the specific names, but I think the town manager is one that gets this information, and others.
Please don't say it's Kevin.
Have
I
you
haven't
received
been
anything,
seeing it.
Bob?
I haven't
You have
been
not been
seeing
seeing
it,
it.
We just changed positions in town.
Okay.
So, last time we had a former town manager, so now,
But in any regard, that the information that I'm talking about is also on our website. But the specific thing that I just mentioned to you, just because you asked me, is there anything more? That's why I wanted to mention it more, but
Is there any-
as I mentioned, the discussion that we're going to have on Thursday might make that just easier, because what we're going to try to do is make provisions of the application as public as possible within a very short window that they are made available. So on Friday, we get our applications received. We're receiving them from the applicants, and hopefully by early part of next week, they'll be made public, those portions of the application.
Sean, you have anything to add?
No, nothing at this point.
Lorraine?
Just one more question. I'm not sure if this is the right time. As thinking about potential mitigations, as we're starting to think about this, has there been any decision made about how alcohol service at all of the casinos and racinos will be handled or managed? Is it going to be standard 1 a.m. like most towns, or has there been any discussion about that? Or
Well,
decision?
there's phase 3 of our regulations, which goes into the operations of alcohol service. And we are still in the process of working on all the details. The statute has very specific standards about when alcohol can be served.
So the statute already has
But
closing times?
this statute has closing times, but the questions about what further can be done, that remains a part of our operational regulations, which are still being written.
All right, I'm gonna bite my tongue for now. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Next, not that far behind, Town Manager Search Committee. Lorraine?
You want to hear anything from the?
Does anybody else want to speak on this matter?
Casino group.
Do you want me to speak on this matter?
I don't know, Mikey. You tell me. You want to speak on the matter or not?
Well, I'll give you what we got. And the worst that's gonna happen is, I don't know. Oh wait, I already lost my job this morning, so it doesn't get much better than that. Basically, you got the history, okay? There's a little bit of turbulence over the summer, as you're fully aware, so we backed off a little bit, and then the next thing we knew, Orway was eliminated. And then Penn National came in, sort of unexpectedly. I did talk to Jim and said, we'll just keep it on the back burner just in case anything wild happens, never thinking it would, but there you go. I did meet with Penn National on the 26th to discuss our liquor control policies. As with all the meetings I've had with either Orway or Penn National, they've always been cordial and professional. To answer your question right now, Penn National's planning on shutting down at 2 a.m. and starting to serve liquor again at 8 a.m. So that's what they told me verbally. They're not planning on serving drinks on the floor. They consider that a loss leader. I asked them that specifically because that was a specific concern of mine, that, free drinks on the floor and whoo-hoo, in the middle of February at 3 in the morning, and no good comes from that. But they said, no, that's generally done where you have high-density gaming a number of gaming facilities competing against each other. A couple of next steps, we're going to research how to obtain money from state set-asides for the social issues. As you know, there's a pot that everyone puts into for social issues. We've identified that as a major issue, and we want to look into that. We have 2 new applicants to the Racino Review Committee. We're going to try to vet those people, probably starting next week. One of them's a lawyer, which actually would have been helpful before, but, still helpful. I could give you the whole slot update thing, but you guys just heard that.
Yeah, maybe, we're kind of putting them on the spot. I mean, they've got a lot of work to do.
Right.
And we've asked them to come just kind of as an update. The stuff on Penn National, we're gonna see that in the application on October 4th, and they're gonna have all the details of when the opening and closing and liquor and stuff. So maybe rather than have them present something that's not complete, I think there's 2 new members or 2 applicants. We, get them in there, get the applications to us, and then go full force into the next step, because I feel like I'm putting them on the spot because you're kind of in the middle of the process at the last minute, correct?
How do you mean? Please elaborate. Not that I felt like I was on the spot 2 weeks ago, but keep going.
I think what we were looking for is a complete report of where you are right now. And if you have it, that would be great, but I didn't, from
Well,
our
it's-
discussion today, I don't think you were there.
Well,
I
yeah,
think that's what you said.
look, the thing is there's you have two solid impacts on the town. I mean, as far as social impacts, not to be sort of facetious, but we could drive a truck up with the number of studies that shows that, the various impacts on, divorces, bankruptcies, child abuse, spousal abuse, what have you. I think that's gonna happen. It showed a 5%, the Plainville people showed a 5% spike, which decreases over time. But, even as I pointed out to Jim, if you have one more abused child in this town, it's one too many. Don't care. Okay, it's an issue. DUI, there's a real possibility of that happening. And it should be closely looked at. There's could be a possible impact, I believe, in what you'd call the Witch Pond well. And, the committee's gone back and forth on that particular issue because we know there's gonna be a water impact. It's just, okay, how much of that is the Plain Ridge Park, and how much of that is the 40B housing, the Market Basket, and all the other developments that are going on there. Basically, you're gonna have an issue. How do you shred out which one it is? And don't get me wrong, I take water issues seriously. And there's sort of interesting debate on the rest of them. I actually think the rest of them are probably secondary or tertiary effects. Clearly, you got an email from one of my committee members who feels differently. But like I said, I think you have two solid hits, one potential third thing you could hang your hat on for a surrounding community. So, and as far as the social impacts, there's not one member of my committee that disagrees with me on that. DUI, I think everyone would agree we should look at that. And as far as the water issue, it's a matter of how much, this town is going to have an issue. How much of that is Plain Ridge versus how much of that is other development is sort of the colorful debate we're having, and that's it.
Okay.
But yeah, you have enough on those three. I think the other ones, like I said, it's subject of some debate. I personally think there's secondary, tertiary issues. You have more proximate towns that are going to handle the police and fire because the way their agreements are reached. Plainville's going to go to those towns first. Road infrastructure. Oddly enough, I found it easier to actually get there via 495 than driving the back roads, although I might admit the back roads are more pleasant. I don't think you can have a huge impact on these things, but, it's a subject of some debate in my committee, and as you've seen, so.
Is there anything, Mike, that you need from the selectmen to keep doing your work? Direction or?
I could use a really good bottle of scotch.
All right, on that note.
No, I mean, the
God help us.
the thing is, it's, how do I put this? Right now, I have 5 extremely passionate people on, well, I'm kind of dispassionate, but I have 4 passionate people on what they believe the impacts are. I've tried to keep it focused on it's coming, it's going to be here, what is the impact on this town? There's a little bit of belief that maybe some people are trying to edge towards maybe if we scream loud enough it will go away. And like I told you, Jim, I don't think that's going to work. Clearly we got some work to do on the, we did engage Sharon, the town planner, when Orway was started, and then we kind of got hit with a churn, and then they disappeared. We did start that on the impacts. We were serious about that. We did develop an RFP for a consultant. You know, we went through that process, and we wrote a fairly extensive RFP, and then, you know, Kevin left. I was literally told to back off because of the stadium issue, and I did, as was requested, and the next thing you know, Orway's out of it. So
The
I'm like,
stadium is, you're talking about the insurance?
yeah, the insurance, yeah.
Took a lot of
yeah.
time to do the
That-
insurance
that-
issue.
Yeah, it took a lot of time to do the insurance issue, and clearly, you know, me coming along saying, hey, can you get this RFP out, was not really a good time. And, you know, and then again, you know, when we were talking in early August, Jim, they went away, and now they're back. So, I mean, we could dust off the RFP thing if you really wanted to hire a consultant. Again, it's late. But, you know, to be perfectly honest, like I said, you know, as far as social issues, I could back a truck up showing the studies that, yeah, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't really think you need to hire somebody for that. You know, DUI, like I told you on the phone beforehand, it's something we need to look at. I mean, I know Penn National takes their liquor control policies pretty seriously, because they're trying to be, they're trying to be good, they're trying to be a helpful neighbor. I mean, it's bad for business if they keep killing people on Route 1. It's just bad for their image, so they're gonna try to fix that. But, you know, again, one or two of them slipped through, and God knows, in my business, I have some, like I told you, well, I was telling somebody today, I have some colorful stories about DUIs. Unfortunately, they involve helicopters, not airplanes,
Hey, Mike,
but,
I met with, briefly, and I'm gonna end the conversation on this, Ginny, if you don't mind.
Well, I just have a question for that.
I think I just wanna end it. I met with Penn National, and they said they don't consider any impact on Foxborough at all. I don't know what they're telling you, but they told me they don't see any kind of social impacts. They don't see any road impacts, any property value impacts, or anything else. That's what they said. Bob is my witness, and James is my witness. That's what they said.
Well, I don't,
Telling you.
I think
Not
they.
entirely.
They
There is gonna
recognize
be
that
impact,
there
but
will be
it's-
impact, but they don't want to assess any of it until a year down the road.
Yeah,
Oh,
after it's
basically,
built and
They
run.
said they want to revisit it in a year, and that means they're not going to revisit it. So after that said, that's what the man told me, so we'll move on from there.
I just have one question for the chairman of the committee.
Yep.
sure.
I know you were looking at the social impacts, but did your committee also look at the process? In other words, did anyone read the bill? Did you know about the surrounding community application that has to be put in? Did you know about the involuntary disbursements application? Because that was, from
I
what
didn't- no.
I,
Can I answer
Bob, you gotta come to the mic. This is why I didn't want to keep going, but only because we're running way over. We're half
no,
hour
if
behind.
if that committee has not looked at it and they're looking for direction, I think that's a direction that we could give them.
We did all the due diligence on that, on every application, every possible bit of money that we could obtain from the commission, from whoever was going to be running that building, the Racino and everything else, and midstream, it ended.
Right.
We were, they were denied the application, so we were,
Okay, but you know now, you,
Bob will
having,
vote,
having gone through that, you know that if a if the entity does not designate a surrounding community,
we know we have we knew, we were
Okay.
aware of all that information.
but I wasn't aware of that until tonight. You know, I mean, like, a report, I would have expected a report from the committee saying, okay, if Penn National doesn't designate us as a surrounding community, we are going to have to put in an application. And, oh, by the way, we're also gonna have to
We
put
were
in an
stopped
involuntary.
midstream. Ordway, you know, whoever Plain Ridge was, they lost their application, so we stopped.
Yeah,
We had all the information, I gave it to Mike, I gave it all the other committee members, and we were working on it.
All right, all right,
and it
all right.
ended.
Okay,
All
but
right, we're gonna stop. We're gonna move on. Thank you, guys. We're gonna have another meeting at the next meeting. I appreciate all the work and effort you put in. I'll be in touch to Bob or James. James kind of been taking care of this for me. We're all trying to disperse the workload, and we'll meet you again at the next meeting, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll give-
Information.
Yes.
We can just talk 2 minutes about direction from me, because I know I'm gonna have to file a petition either through council or myself.
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Yep.
I can look at the involuntary monies again. You know, it's kind of late in the process, but we can look at that. But in trying to negotiate an agreement with Penn National, even if we file the petition, there's a 30-day window to try to negotiate. What direction do you want me to go with it as a board? Because you and Jim were there and you heard what they said. It's not that they don't consider us a surrounding community. They wouldn't be negotiating with us if they didn't. They just don't have to, in their application, designate us as one. They're not going to do that. That makes it up to us to file that petition. But they will not come up with any additional monies at this time. Right, Mark?
Right.
That's, they don't believe that traffic's gonna be a huge concern. I've talked to some of the area towns. Mansfield's not really concerned with much of it. North Attleboro's concerned about 152, and Rentham, we're not sure where they're at this point. But from our town perspective, I need direction from you, what you want me to do with Penn National going forward. Because we're not gonna, this 2 weeks gonna go by before we have another discussion about this.
So if Penn National is saying they don't anticipate including us or any other community as an impacted abutting community per the regulations, it leaves it in, so October 4th, they make their application. It's not, it'll state whether they've come to agreements or who they consider, even though there's no agreement, who they consider a community that they have to work with. If they're saying Foxborough is not one of them, we don't have a choice other than to spend the money, to spend the time, to apply directly to the state under that process. It seems to me that Penn National can't have it both ways. If either we are, and they send us a draft agreement, and we negotiate back and forth in good faith, or we're not.
Well, they sent us the draft agreement. I have it.
But at the same time, they're saying
They're not gonna.
consider us someone that they would have to come to an agreement with.
They're not gonna designate us in the application, is my understanding in the
So the
conversation.
only alternative is to go the
We
petition.
have to go to the,
Go to the petition.
That
But
doesn't- but
they
we're-
can't have it both ways.
Well, in the process, even if we are designated by the Gaming Commission, then we have 30 days to negotiate an agreement with them. So I think what we heard
We
from,
won't be designated unless we submit a petition. I asked them that question. He said
No, I
they're not gonna
understand
take it
that.
on themselves to do
I
that.
understand that, but once we are,
You've got 30-day
you
window to
have
get
that
it done.
30 days to still negotiate. But if you were listening to Mr. Ziemba, he was indicating he's hoping that anyone that is working on an agreement continues to do that so that they don't have to make that determination. We could come up with an agreement before they have to make that determination.
So, in
Call
other
them,
words, you're
Bob.
saying once that determination is made by the committee, we've got 30 days. So you want to use this time now, leading up to it, and the 30 days to get a better agreement because it's not going away.
To try to get an agreement in 30, we've already had a couple weeks, and we're not very far because
Yeah.
you all haven't been able to discuss it. I can't commit the town until I have, input
Consensus
from-
of the board, yeah.
So, my question to Mr. Zambia was, okay, we have to do the surrounding community application, that's number one. Involuntary disbursement, number two. Okay, I said, what else do we know? What do we have to do? And that was my question to the committee, the Racino Committee. Have they read the regulations so that they know what we have to do?
Well, and I understand that, but now we've gone back to that point, and they're not here to answer your questions, so we need to move on from that and direct Bob what we're doing. We're not going backwards. Lorraine?
Bob and I had talked about this, and I know that there is debate within that committee as to what the potential impacts are, the seriousness or the validity of even some of them. And we talked about the idea of just having them present us with both sides of the argument for any of these issues so that we can review them, working with Bob, come up with a prioritized list of what we would submit that we think could be potential impacts to us as we apply through this petition process. Because I understand what Penn National is saying, that they're not going to do anything until they see what happens. But I still think we have to take a position that we believe things are going to happen despite that position that they're taking. And based on the research, I was at one of the presentations that talked about, there's a 10-mile radius of impact for increase in gambling problems. And it trails, and it's pretty high, and it trails off over a period of 10 years. But that would have some tremendous impacts on our ability to support that type of need in the community tomorrow, if it happened tomorrow. Because, we're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to social work services in the town of Foxborough. So, I don't want to have us not list specifically those impacts that we believe and that this committee is debating. I would like us to be able to consider what they're debating, as opposed to hearing, only a short snippet like we just heard, so.
And
So I
that's-
think what you're saying, Ginny, is
By the way,
correct.
is that independent of a petition?
No, I
Or is that-
think
No,
that's
we have to do the
information to
petition.
consider, information to consider
Because
as we bring it forward.
Bob's looking to say.
That's
as a
all I wanna
committee,
do is, are we
guys,
gonna
let's get a
petition or not?
Yeah.
Prepared and
Yeah,
ready
I
to
see,
go on
yes,
October 5th.
you got your green light. Everybody
Yeah.
agree?
Oh, yeah, and I don't think that was you're gonna do that regardless, that was clear.
But
It's,
as
do
far as
we not
direction,
negotiate?
Where
in
do
the
you
meantime?
want me to go with Penn
Yeah.
National?
Well, when they call, let me know, and then we'll figure it out.
It
But
doesn't
Bob, did
sound
you-
like they want to negotiate.
No, he's been calling me. But they're very clear. They are not gonna, right now, agree to put up any additional money. They're already contributing funds per statute towards the problem gambling. There's a fund set up, I think, what'd they say, $5
$5 million.
a year from all of the 4,
The entire state.
the entire
Entire
state, for the
state,
the
yeah.
3 casinos and the racino.
So Bob, can I suggest this? I know you got the draft, and we haven't seen it yet, but if the draft is indicative of what they said they were gonna put in it, and what you said, that basically build it now, we'll study it in the future. If that's the best that they can do, this board's gonna change. We're all volunteers, planning board. Nobody's gonna follow it a year from now and then try to chase our tail, trying to find something that's already built and either expanding, or who knows what the gaming regulations are gonna be in a year. I'm looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. This is the only establishment that's in our state, if it ever gets built. I think the agreement has to be cognizant that there is gonna be impact, because that's, the reason that we're sitting at this table giving input to what another town is doing is because the state says there will be impact. The
No,
report says it.
the agreement will recognize that there may be some mitigation that has to come into play. They're not willing to make that assessment now based on a facility that isn't even operational. So we've got to build in some safeguards, which I'm working with them to do. One of the things that they will agree is, if we can't agree on what the assessment is a year from now, that they will go into an arbitration process. So I'm looking at ways to, safeguard that. So that would be the hook, that they agree to do that. And also, they're not a big fan of the regional planning agencies, but they would agree to do some other kind of assessment tool, some other, companies that we could look at, and that if, they would have to reasonably agree, or if not, we could go to arbitration of that as well.
But again, this is all under the premise that it's after
Correct.
the fact, after it's built. And
Can I
I'll tell you,
clarify
Mike.
one thing though?
Sure.
Did you think that after October 4th, that without the petition being reviewed, that you might be able to begin to negotiate with them independently of a ruling by the Gaming Commission?
We've been we met with them, and I've been talking with.
So in other words, we may send in a petition, and that may take a month to get an answer back, but you think that, concurrently with that, you can.
I would like to continue to try to work with them and come up with an agreement, if we can do that.
That would save some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see it, like Bob says, going anywhere, because it was more of a meet and greet. I'm sorry, we'll revisit it in a year. I left that out, but there was no kumbaya, we're here, we're offering. It was zero, we'll revisit everything in a year.
Mr.
So,
Martin from
yeah.
the,
So, I mean, yes, you gotta come up to the mic if you're gonna speak. And this is the last topic on this. Bob, you got your direction, we're way behind
Well,
schedule.
can you put in for both applications at the same time? Because we can
Thanks.
always withdraw.
Well,
The surrounding
No.
community application and the involuntary disbursements. We can always withdraw if we don't need it, but I'd like to put it in there just in case, just to be proactive. We can always withdraw it if it's unnecessary. but at least get it going.
Talk to Attorney Gellerman tomorrow and figure out how he wants to approach this. I'm sure he's up to date on the legislation.
Hi, I'm Jack Martin. I'm one of those Racino committee members who occasionally debates with other members on the committee. Something to recognize, Plain Ridge cannot start operation until all surrounding community agreements are finalized. So you have the most leverage today. You should not in any way accept, well, we'll talk to you in a year. You have leverage now because they can't start. So you need to, so what will happen, I believe, is we will be called a surrounding community by the Mass Gaming Commission or Plain Ridge if they choose to. And there will be, and if we want to seek what is likely, what should be due this community, Plain Ridge will not agree to that. There is a procedure in the regulations that the Mass Gaming Commission will then make a determination. We do not have the right to veto it, but if there is no agreement, the Mass Gaming Commission will there is a process where they end up making the agreement. But we have our strongest arguments right now. We do not have them a year from now.
Okay, thank you, Jack.
Okay.
Okay, moving on. All right, next is the Town Manager Search Committee. Lorraine?
Okay, so since our last meeting, the advisory committee approved the transfer request. So we have started the process. Mr. Kobayashi is working through Sandra to start coordinating interviews, starting with the Board of Selectmen. It's looking at a couple this Thursday, a couple next Monday or Tuesday. Monday. And what I wanted to do was just talk about the last time we had discussed coming up with a list of potential members of a screening committee, and also names of individuals to be considered for interview by Mr. Kobayashi. So, I've gotten feedback from a couple of folks, added a couple of names to this potential list. This isn't as urgent right now, I think, to deal with as really looking at the interview list that we have here. So I'll just run through some of the thoughts that I had in putting this together and see if the board would like to, make any changes. Obviously, starting with the members of the Board of Selectmen, the town moderator, elected board chairs, Bob Cutler as acting town manager and town clerk, Randy Scollins, finance director, Sharon for planning, Sandra as the assistant. And then I listed the chiefs of public safety, DPW, HR director, and then from the community, I've had different people provide this list of names: Jack Othelette, Marie Crimmins, Dave Brown, Steve Bagley, Bill Greeter, Tony LaChapelle. So these are just some thoughts as to getting the process started to give Mr. Kobayashi a sense of what the elected leaders of the town are looking for in a town manager, and also members of the community and some department head input also, for starters. And then I believe the way the process will work is when he's finished these interviews, he could make a determination if he needs more input, whether it be from the community or more department heads, go to the next level and take it from there. So any thoughts on this list or the way I'm approaching it so far?
Well, the purpose of that list is to give Mr. Kobayashi a flavor for what the town's all about.
Yes.
And as I said before, hopefully the criteria that comes out of this is that we need someone that can gain the confidence of the town and also understand the culture of Foxborough and the spirit of Foxborough. So I think that group of people that you've identified can do that job.
Okay, anybody else have anybody in mind to add?
Not a specific person, but an entity. If we're looking for what a community is looking for or what's important to a community, we've got, you know, a handful of employees, we've got a handful of past elected people. I don't see anyone from the clergy on here, and I don't have anyone in mind.
Okay.
But if you look at the town, you know, there's 3 or 4 or 5 churches that probably have some very good insight if they want to participate.
I
And
can
that
reach
whole
out.
separation, I don't know if they're comfortable, but I think it's worth considering.
Yeah, that's, there's 6, I think.
Okay.
I think it's a great idea. Anything else, James? Ginny? Okay,
Okay, so I'll,
well, I got, my
I'm sorry.
turn. How about Frank Mortimer? No, kidding, Frank. Well, you know what, one comes to mind, I'd like to see Bill Dudley, and Jimmy brought that up, and Larry Thomas on the list.
I think Larry Thomas cannot.
He can be on the
Oh,
interview.
on the interview, okay.
List, if you, would you like to do that, Larry? Sure. On the interview?
Yes.
He can't be on the panel.
Correct, I was mistaken.
No, you can interview
Interview, sure.
to talk to Mr. Kobayashi to see what you think the new town manager should be, okay? Is there anybody else, how about,
Now, let's be clear, this is not the screening committee.
no,
No.
this is just somebody we wanted to talk to get the flavor of the town. I mean, there's been
Probably-
significant letters from Bill,
Conservation Commission.
that would be, good. Well, he says all elected board chairs. All right, so that covers that.
They're
And,
appointed.
and the other one was,
Oh, that's a good point, they are appointed.
oh, yeah, you're right.
Conservation is not
Well,
elected.
Yeah, conservation.
So
Okay,
it should be elected and appointed? boards?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Jenny, plus
How much time
appointed.
does Dick have to get
Yeah, I
this
know,
done?
I was gonna say.
You know what, he's getting paid. You know,
I think this
some
would
of
be a
these
good
people-
starting point.
Some of these people
Add
might
Concom.
refuse also,
Right.
and, you know,
Right.
but it's a starting point, and, Bill Buckley, Senior, I think it'd be a very important person to talk to.
Okay.
How many is that?
It's
80.
under 20.
85?
Under 20 as a whole, but then you get the chairs, so it's not that much. I mean, if there's 25 hours here, it's an interview process. I mean, we got one this week. I don't know if you replied. I've got 2:30, I think, on Thursday.
Mm,
No, I'm on 6 o'clock Monday night.
Okay.
4 o'clock Thursday.
So that gets us right out of the way. If it's 30 hours of, I don't, you know, what we're.
They'll come up with an expedited process
Yeah.
to do this.
So I don't see it being a problem, so. If you're watching, and you've heard your name.
Marie Crimmins. I can give you this list.
That was the next one.
That's the extra one? It's right here. I'm sorry, there's a couple
It's a
right
good
here.
list.
Did you get the additions?
Those are the, both, right?
No, that's just the liquor license stuff.
Okay, all right.
So Lorraine, as far as the list of,
So, right, for the, on the screening committee?
yeah, so we're gonna come down, we're gonna rate these 1 through however they are.
However many there are, so say we're at 15 now, if you have any last minute ones, just shoot them to me,
Okay.
and then I'll send this out.
And then we'll give
By
you our ranking
Thursday,
system.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be a meeting, just separate to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
if you
email
compile
it to
it.
me, 15, the highest, you know,
Yep.
down, and then I'll just total them up, rank them, and if we end up, you know, with ties or anything, we can just discuss, or
Okay.
we can make whatever
I
adjustments.
just
we
wanted
make.
to throw this out, and this is the composition of the screening committee. I've looked at a few other towns, and the ones that I've looked at, they either have 1 or 2 selectmen on the screening committee itself. And I was wondering what thoughts are on that.
We thought about it.
Or, let me ask it this way, have we established the composition of the screening committee?
We haven't, but we've talked about this in the past, that we're all gonna be voting on a contract. So if the screening committee brings us 3 to 5 finalists, I think that's what you had in mind, Lorraine? Or, I mean, I don't want just 2.
They could bring us 3 finalists
Yeah,
to us.
to us, and,
But this is the point I'm trying to make. They could bring 3 finalists to us that we've never seen before.
right.
Right.
Well,
See them for the
probably
first
gonna
time.
be the case.
So that's leaving a good bit of the search in the hands of other folks, and we're the ones responsible for finding someone that fits in with the town.
Well, the person that you have on this board is gonna have to protect your family, you know, what you want. If you have somebody that you're gonna, because you're gonna have your choice of who you want on this.
Yeah, I mean,
No, the point I'm trying to make is other towns have put sometimes one, sometimes two selectmen on the screening committee to actually go through resumes and actually go through the initial interviews.
I think Lorraine did that all by herself last time.
Ouch.
single-handedly, thank you. I mean, when I look at the list of names that, you know, have come together here, I feel confident that they would be able to, you know, objectively screen qualified candidates to bring forward to us. I think
No, I'm just throwing it out. I'd like to get everybody's
Yeah.
input on this just to see if.
I'm
I think we're
not
busy-
interested in seeing selectmen on it. I'd like more of the,
We tried to get some former selectmen on it, but that didn't work out. I actually talked to one today, and he said he's too busy.
That's what we gotta figure
And
out.
I don't think
So
a couple of
is
these
it 1
people
to
are gonna
5?
wanna be on it, so.
Just have the goals and objectives.
You-
So it's
you-
like-
1 to 5, sorry. No, she's asking, how many people are we looking on this committee?
We're looking for 5, right?
5, maybe with 2 alternates?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so
So
how are
you-
we ranking them?
If there's
So
15, you number
15.
1 through 15, so
Oh.
the people elevate to
So
the
the top
top, it gets the
7.
highest votes.
Well, yeah, it's 1 through 15 unless we add somebody. We might add
Right, so
somebody,
it's-
so it might be 1 through 20 by the time we're done. So you wanna add someone,
Right,
if you
if
want.
you could send them to me
Well,
by,
There should be a cutoff date or when.
about by this Friday?
Yeah, you got this week.
My opinion on the question, to have selectmen sitting in on that, when you have 1 or 2 selectmen, I think it does more harm than good, because it can interfere, it can sway the other members. And then when it comes back, you're one of the people that are gonna vote for somebody with more insight than the other ones that are sitting
Well, the
there.
reason I bring it up is I took a look at the composition of screening committees with other towns.
Yep.
And I would say more often than not, they had either 1 or 2 selectmen on the screening committee. And I'm sure they've given it a
Yeah.
lot of thought, and that they arrived at that conclusion.
To make the final decision, or to bring it to the full board?
To bring it to the full board.
I like participation of the selectmen on it. Because the
Well,
selectmen are the people who are going to be dealing with the town manager.
Well, you know, you gotta have faith in the person you appoint to this,
Yeah.
to bring what you want to the table, to bring it
Mm.
back to you, so I just don't wanna, I mean, it sounds like it's 3 minimum, maybe 4 to 1 that we don't here at the table. Why don't we just give it some thought,
Yeah, like I said, I wanted to raise
and
it,
talk about this,
you know, just to say that at least we had talked about it.
you know?
Mhm.
But I see that there is merit in it, and I see Jim's point, that, you know, you're starting the process with somebody that you might be reporting to. But I still think it's, if we get a group of candidates that completely misses the mark, one option open to us is to go back and try it again.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. So I think we got some, you know, lines of defense in there too at the end. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
just
gonna be
give it some
easy
thought.
on you.
And if you want to do some research in other towns, I think you'll find that they've taken a slightly different route.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any more discussion on that issue? No?
So I'll get everybody's
So you need these by
additional
Friday?
by Friday. Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
All right, stadium liquor license discussion. I had a discussion today with Mr. Murphy. Their application, Bob, from the stadium is not completely in yet.
It was filed late yesterday, and Sandra's vetting it now. So they had hoped to get on for the October 15th date, but it was not possible to get that on for that date. So it looks like it'll be the next one, which is the 29th.
Okay, what's coming up, we might even have an added meeting this month, the way the agenda's going with the whole Racino situation and everything else, we might be adding one, so it might not even be that far out. Lorraine, you wanted to speak on this topic before we
Yeah,
move on?
Because this application has potential changes related to, the footprint of the stadium, I wanted to have us talk about getting special counsel to review the situation and help us be clear as to, what it is exactly that we're looking at here. I've put together for the board, with the help of Sandra and Val from Inspection Department, the capacity of all the different liquor license entity, licensed entities, so that you can get an idea of where the capacity for the occupancy for all of these entities really sits within the town. And so, I think we have some old notes here, facts to consider when issuing a license, that what we as a board have to look at are the public interest, the public need. We have to protect the common good, determine an adequate number of places at which the public may obtain the different sorts of beverages, what's the appropriateness of a liquor license at a particular location, consider the number of existing businesses and their location in the community, and so, I think where this is potentially a big change and potentially a significant impact, I would like us to authorize Bob to obtain special counsel to help us through this review, because this will be a significant review.
Do you have anybody in mind?
I gave, it was Toomey, Hesse, and Lahane, I think, was one of the,
That was one of the packages
one
we
of the
got last
packets
year.
that we
Toomey
reviewed.
Munson.
and I think, Ginny, you remembered that?
Yeah, when
They
we were reviewing the, thanks, Wayne. When we were reviewing the applicants for town council, in the packet, I remember there was that particular, I remember Lahane, I don't know the rest of them. But what interested me is that they were the people who developed the liquor license legislation for Derby Street and Hingham, which that language is what the rep for Dedham used for Legacy Place, and that language was what I used in my initial legislation for Patriot Place, which was not adopted, by the way, because the selectmen at the time decided to go their own way. But anyway, I was impressed because they had dealt with issues of an entertainment shopping area with a lot of restaurants, which is very similar to Patriot Place. So I think they know what the town would be dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was impressed. I was really impressed with, when we interviewed them, I was really impressed with that knowledge that they had.
Mhm.
So
So-
I would suggest we go that route with
What
them.
about funding?
Well, we have to pay for legal,
We have to pay for counsel,
and who we use.
I guess we can check the lease to see if this qualifies, for an ask of the stadium, but I still think we have to pay for it.
Well, do we, when we have liquor license transfer come in front of us, we don't always have counsel involved.
Mm,
Not always, but this
is a
going
big
back to
one.
Lorraine's original point,
Yeah,
this is a real change in the perimeter of the license
right.
that is outside of the stadium. And the thing is, we're into a sort of a twilight zone and really don't know what that means to the original agreements. That's why special counsel, to guide us through that. We might be getting ourselves into an area that, crawling into a hole we can't get out of. So I think it's prudent to get on this route.
Out of our regular annual
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think if we tackled this one without special counsel, shame on us, because I think there's some complexities to it that we're unaware of.
Okay.
And I think we need to do a thorough study of it. I mean, for the first time, I think we saw a comprehensive list of all the liquor licenses and all the establishments in town. It's an eye-opener, it really is.
no doubt about it.
For a little town, we sell a lot of booze.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. It's, most of the discussions up here, sometimes in a year, 50% of them are on alcohol.
Yep.
So,
So I think it's time to to catch our breath and do an overall assessment of our liquor licensing procedures and really what's in the best interest of the town.
okay. James, anything to add?
Yeah, we kind of touched on this last, so when the Japanese restaurant was coming in, there was a transfer required. There was discussion going back to other bars that came in and transferred, and is it a town license, is it Patriots Place? So I think at best it was confusing last time, and I think we got through it because people wanted the Japanese restaurant. It was wasn't a huge issue. But I think in my mind at that time, I said, if this thing happens again, I need some understanding of it, because there's a lot going on with their liquor licenses, and just to pick it from one place and transfer it, whether it, for the bowling alley, which might be a good fit, just to do that, I think we're a little bit out of our element without understanding the whole thing.
Okay. Want to take a vote on this, or do you have the census?
I'll take Lorraine's suggestion as a motion, and I'll second it.
Okay. Okay, Lorraine.
All those in favor?
For a special to hire a special counsel.
You need to make a motion.
That specifics, that
Yeah.
specific.
Yeah, okay, so I move that we retain Toomey, Hesse, and Lahane, I believe is the name of the firm. I know I'm missing one of the names. To provide us with special counsel in reviewing this next liquor license coming before us.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
What are you asking them to review?
The application, when it comes in for the, it's a transfer, so the appropriateness of the transfer with
lease.
respect to the lease
The
agreement.
lease agreement.
And hopefully everything goes well, but it's something that, we've got the insight for.
Like I said, it's very rare I'm on this board without an attorney. Very rare. Sometimes I've had two.
Somebody said once we're a small town with big city issues.
It's very true.
It's very true.
It's Jimmy Thrasher.
Is that who?
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, Bobby, thank you for that. Lorraine, thank you. Okay, special town meeting warrant. That passes right over to you, Mr. Cutler. We all set to go on this?
Yeah, the warrant is as presented, and I think you all have a copy of it in your packet, and we just need to go through each article, make sure you're comfortable with the way it's written. And we just need a vote that you're accepting each article so that the warrant can be posted and Sandra can have the motions prepared and all of that. She's already started that process, obviously.
Can we change the order of one of these articles, just because in the discussion at advisory committee last week, they were hoping that they would be able to present the DPW request prior to the town hall plan request?
I don't think that is a
So-
problem. However, I don't see that as being an issue, because if the DBW Administrative Office warrant fails, it's not going to change the amount of money that's going to be needed to do the plans,
Right.
because the plans are going to be done based on, what
The
building needs
program
are
would
at
have
that
to be
time.
adjusted.
Yeah. So it's not, I don't think it's going to change that article at all. All that article is talking about is voting for the money to get design plans and specs ready for, the vote in May.
I think the concern was that it might be confusing to the public.
Yeah, so two things. The first is, it's not the AdCom that wants to change the order. It was the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners. We suggested that they do it, but we have no
I see. Okay.
opinion on the order of the articles. The second thing is that what we were concerned about is at town meeting, people will want to know what is this going to cost ultimately, and the number has been between $8 and $9 million. And what we've heard is that if water and sewer comes back into the building, that'll add $850 to $1 million more.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be prepared if there's a possibility at town meeting that their warrant article goes first, fails, we need to be prepared to explain to the town these new numbers. So that's the issue.
That makes sense to me.
Right.
I see your point, Bob, but I think that.
Yeah, I mean, the article
it
is
lines
strictly
it
for the
up. Yeah.
$550,000, but everyone at that meeting is also gonna wanna know, okay, if we okay this $550,000, what's the total for this building? What's it gonna be? And it depends on whether water and sewer is in the building or not.
And nobody's gonna know that night, because they aren't gonna know it until they design the plans again.
But there's the number that we've been told at every one of our meetings is between $8 and $9 million. And that's without water and sewer. And at our last meeting, somebody told us that if water and sewer came back in, that adds another minimum of $850,000.
Well,
So
you know what it comes
that's
down to
the-
though, Bob, is what happens is, and I've said this publicly, I don't know how many times now, and I think everybody concurs with me townwide. If we vote for the design structure in the bid to, $550,000 to get this out to bid, we're really, a lot of people think we're really voting on town hall at that point in fact. So I think, you know what, it ain't even worth arguing about. If they wanna swap it to 4 and 5, 3 and 4, I don't have an issue with that. If it ends the discussion and we can move forward to more promising conversations, I have no issue with that at all. Anybody else?
I just
Yeah.
disagree on the, I've worked on many projects where the town has done all the design. Times change, things change, it goes to town meeting and they vote against the project.
Mhm.
And it's just lost money.
Right,
But it happens quite often.
right.
So,
Well, I'm kind of preparing the public that, the way I look at this, and maybe I'm not speaking for everybody, but if we're moving forward with the $500,000, I hope they understand that I plan on moving forward with the rest. I don't plan on sitting on my hands and at the next town meeting saying, hey, you know what, sorry about the $500,000, folks. See you later.
I don't think that's ever happened in this town.
Yeah.
People have voted for the design and then not for the building, but it could
Actually, in the past projects, the design has always been part of the whole thing that's brought forward.
this-
That's what's different.
that's why it's
now.
separated this time.
That's what's
Yeah.
different, because we're trying to get that number, instead of it being an estimate that's brought for vote, have it be the actual number, which will be hopefully lower than
Yeah,
that
so you can
$8 or
have
$9
construction
million.
documents, it's gonna go out to
Right.
bid, there's
Yeah,
gonna be a
Herd
real
was-
number.
Herd was done that way, I believe.
Right.
Yeah,
where they
the library was
decided
not.
Library wasn't,
Library was.
right, public safety, I don't think,
But is there an issue with swapping it with the board,
I don't think so.
James?
And,
Okay.
I don't know, did the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners give you sort of their reason? I mean, is this just so you can answer the question to the second half of the equation? In other words, if it passes, then you have a number for the town
That's right.
hall article. If it
Estimating.
fails,
Yep.
then you have another number for the town hall.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly
And
right.
that was the premise by which they wanted to move it forward?
Yes.
Okay.
So is there gonna be a second number attached to this warrant, that if Article 1, if the water and sewer fails, then Article 2 of the town hall increases from 550 to something else?
No, it won't affect the design number, it will affect
The total
to
cost.
be built number, the number that we would vote on
But
in the annual town meeting.
Typically, the design is a percentage of the construction
Well,
cost,
then,
so
yeah, I
if you
mean,
add $1 million, you're adding
That's
another
good.
100,000.
They were figuring
point.
that it would
Good
come
point.
in under the 550, like around high 300s, I think is what they were talking about.
yeah, and we're not gonna,
Okay.
after tonight, we won't be able to change that 550 number, so.
All right, well, now that that's in, why don't we vote on Article 1?
Okay.
And now I'll allow the clerk to make all the motions.
Okay, I move that we accept Article 1 as written into the town warrant for Monday, the 4th of November.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Next will be number 2.
I move that we accept Article 2, unpaid bills from prior year, into the town meeting warrant for Monday, the 4th of November.
And retro pay adjustment.
Well, that's in there, isn't it?
Article 2.
Okay,
That's the unpaid bill.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5 again.
I move that we accept Article 3, town hall plans, into,
We're gonna make that Article
Article
4.
4.
is it really?
Article 3 will become Article,
Right.
Article 4 now becomes Article 3. So just use Article 3 and then go to DPW
Okay, let
administrative.
me go Article 3. I move that we accept Article 3, DPW administrative offices, into the special town meeting warrant on November 4th.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Article 4, Town Hall plans. I move that we accept Article 4 into the special town meeting warrant on November 4th.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Article 5, sewer service area. I move that we accept Article 5 into the special town meeting warrant on November 4th.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
5-0 again.
Articles, I move that we accept Article 6, which is an article on grant reimbursement, into the special town meeting warrant on November 4th.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor? Aye.
Move that we accept Article 7, amend zoning bylaws, into the special town meeting warrant on November 4th.
Second.
Discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there you have it. Okay, Bobby. Thank you for that. And
So there'll be another rev of the warrant before?
Yep.
Or has that already been done?
No, we will vote our opinion on the articles.
No, I'm just saying the order, that's gonna
Oh,
change.
that's it.
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. All right, so now we're gonna go to action. There's only 4 or 5 actions. I'm all messed up now, yeah?
Let me find my actions.
Yeah, there's a lot of added.
Is that it?
I'll jump into it. To approve the minutes for September 10th,
Second.
while Mark's looking.
Got it.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay,
Where's the action list?
John, you find it? Right,
Perfect, here we are.
Number 2 is Jake and Joe's, Skip Jackson, Green Valley Steakhouse, all looking to open at 11 a.m. on Sundays during 1 p.m. Patriots home games. Standard.
The letters don't have the provisions, but the letter to them will have the provisions.
Okay, I know, but D&N Corporation also asks for football and concerts, so,
We'll strike the concept
yeah,
provision.
well, I know, but just so you're aware that he also asked for concert, and we're just approving that.
Can I ask one other question? I mean, does generally an establishment have to be in reasonable proximity to the stadium?
No, because what we did years ago, going back many years ago, is we didn't allow that to be a stereotype to that one region because there were
Just
other
so you can
entities
say,
that we
by the way-
licensed, and we just
It's
thought it
gonna
would
be only for football games.
But
1 o'clock,
on his
right.
letter,
No, my
Say
question is Jake
not
and
for
Joe's is
concerts.
5 miles away.
Yeah, but you know
Thank
what,
you.
we allow it because they're also a liquor license establishment. It was very debated on the board, and especially between me and Jimmy Thrasher. And, you know, it became about when the Ancient Mariner wanted it to be opened.
Huh.
And my argument, John, at the time was, people aren't even out of church, and you're gonna open bars on the streets of Foxborough. And he said, well, Mark, you know, you can't have it at just one area of town and not the rest of the town. It's not, you're
Oh,
opening
no, there's
yourself to
competitive dynamics in
liability.
this, I understand that.
But what it comes down to is, it's not fair to all, and it would cause some kind of liability to the town, maybe in in a legal battle, to say no to one entity and say yes to another. So we made it, at that point in time, we made it level across the board, 11 o'clock, but only for 1 o'clock home games.
Mhm.
And that's the way the board's been running with it
Okay,
since.
is this now the end of the list, or is there still?
No, there'll be more.
Okay, this is a
And then there'll
never-ending
be
process.
applications for playoff games. It's like I said earlier, 50% of the conversation up here is alcohol.
Used to be. Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept opening times for Jake and Joe's, Skip Jack's, Green Valley Steakhouse to begin at 11 a.m. Sundays during 1 p.m. Patriots home games.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3,
I'll
John.
make a motion that we accept Jim Morris's request from the Wampanoag Roadrunners and give them permission to hold their 19th annual road race on, is that February 16th?
February 16th.
Okay, with a snow date to be February 23rd. Good luck, that's gonna be cold.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Won't be that cold. End of February, sun's high.
Okay.
Take it from me, John.
I move that we accept Deb Giordano request to hold a Halloween parade downtown Foxborough on October 26, 2013.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, they promised that they would bring candy corns in to us tonight, and we got nothing.
Well, they probably went to the wrong building.
Cancel.
All right. All those in favor? Aye, great. Okay, number 5.
I move that we appoint Jeff Downs as the alternate to the Board of Recreation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6, I move that we grant a one-day beer and wine license to the We Beat Cancer organization. This was submitted by Paul Waits.
Second.
Discussion?
There's
It says three
Oh, I'm sorry,
different
yeah.
ones.
one-day
Yeah,
licenses.
3 one-day licenses, my
Okay.
fault.
All, so is amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. You know, every time I sit up here at the end of the meeting, I almost go back, have a little flashback, because back in the day, we'd have old business and new business, which has been illegal for now with the Ethics Commission for quite a few years, so I'm not gonna do that. So I'm gonna let Ginny take a crack at this next executive session motion. If you would, yeah, just put us into executive session with the motion, I appreciate it.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I move that we, do we adjourn this meeting? No.
No.
No, I move that we go into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, to wit, Deputy Police Chief John Chandler, and to review the executive session minutes.
Second?
To exit executive session.
Oh, and then to exit
Only to
executive
adjourn.
session, only to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Roll call, James?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Elaine?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Mark, yes. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.